This is week 3 of my sprint review. So, for the last week, I believe the last thing that was completed was further work upon the mechanics. I didn't make a lot of progress last week, I feel, so I tried to buckle down and do stuff around the main mechanic because the mechanic is going to take the largest amount of time to develop. So, what I spent time doing this week is creating a tile set and some level assets, and also creating a level design. So, first of all, the tile assets that I decided to make were in pixel art. I decided to use a 8x8 ratio, making a 64-bit sort of style, to create a small tile set for an ice-themed level. Current outlook on that looks like this. We have some ledges to use, we have some base area to use, we have a looping sort of walkway to use here. I've tried to mirror it fully, so that if you put it in, it should always loop, as seen here. Oh, actually, no, can't take the ledges. Whoops. Let's try that again. Should. Not like that. I have to get used to this new tool too. There you go. So it should loop pretty well now. And it looks pretty good in my opinion. Kind of fits the theming of the game that I want to go for. I'm going to have to redo the lava asset because of this, and probably also the ice asset because I've changed how ice looks. But that's a small thing to pay for having a loopable asset that I can use to build any level. I've also added a collision onto this grid, so I don't have to worry about it falling through or anything. I can just simply import it and it'll be ready to use whenever. As for the other thing I did, I decided to create some levels, which I will pull up now. So, for my level design, I decided to go with something simple for the first level. The green triangles are icicles, the blue blocks are moving platforms that move left to right, and the red is obviously lava. This is the player, this is the finish spot. So for the first level, it's a very simple design. I just want to ease the player into the icicle mechanic because I feel it could be a bit of a stern learning curve. Having to bait out icicles isn't something too natural, and I haven't really seen it done too often in video games now, with bad controls. Unless we're talking about the NES period, which is not exactly the period I'm sort of aiming for. I don't want to go retro with this or anything like that. I don't want the game to be furious because of it being like an old game where it's supposed to be super hard, so it takes hours to beat, so that the players get their money's worth. I want the game to be fun, but rage-inducing, which is a very fine line to walk. So, giving the player this tutorial level I feel is a good idea. Admittedly, level 2 throws them in the deep end. Furthering the concept of the icicles, I decided to start mixing more moving platforms with icicles. The theming of this one was that you could save yourself a few times if you were to fall off by catching a moving platform. However, I kind of think that this level might be a bad idea to put as the second level. I might try and create a level between these two to introduce further mechanics. But currently this doesn't introduce any new mechanics, apart from the fact that you can get a flag back by collecting the yellow circle. The other thing that's important as well is using moving platforms, players won't be able to place respawn flags on them, because if they do, they're just going to be able to fall off, because they're going to spawn and the flags are probably, the moving platforms, are going to probably be reset. Or they won't be underneath the feet of the player. The player won't know that, so it's an unfair punishment. So I may need to think about using more still blocks so that the player actually has a chance. Maybe a still block here isn't a bad idea. Actually, no, probably not, because that's the same thing there. So probably more one about here-ish, and moving this moving platform up to here is a good idea. But these are beginning level designs. They can be further iterated upon as I start to create the levels in the engine. However, right now, I feel comfortable with this design concept. Stuff is a bit smooshed up here, obviously. There'll be enough gaps to move around the icicles as these platforms. Currently, I like this level design. I also had an idea for another obstacle. Let me pull that up now. Okay, so I drew my ideas for levels in my sketchbook first and translated them over to Photoshop. As you can see here, the other two designs, well, rotated the wrong way, continue here. So triangle, the 3 icicles and the moving platforms and lava. Didn't come out the greatest because I used pencil, not pen. However, my last design, I didn't translate because I feel it's too difficult and too much of a long stage. There's only 2 actual points to put checkpoints, and at that point I might as well be putting in checkpoints myself. I need to rethink the concept of using moving platforms versus using still platforms, because there's clearly not enough spots for a player to be able to put their checkpoint. And also, it's just too much of a gauntlet. They have to do this trick with dodging these icicles way too many times. Alongside this, I create a new asset though, and I think I want to use it. This icon here, a circle with SB written into it, is a snowball. The idea is that once they hit a certain trigger area, the snowball will roll forward, a bit like a Mario shell. I love this idea. I think it's a good theming with my levels, and I want to use it. The only problem is, with moving platforms, it could get a bit weird, because it could jitter inside of them or such, so it would require an extensive amount of bug testing, alongside the fact that it'd be using triggers, so it would require extensive testing with making sure the player wouldn't be able to avoid the trigger. The only other worry that I could see here, that I've admittedly forgotten, was basically expecting speedrun tricks and techs to be created off of this. These icicle jumps, where the platform is going up, would literally require the player to jump off of the platform and land back on with ice physics. It's ridiculously hard, and honestly at that point, rage-inducing to a point of not being fun. So this level design is probably going to be scrapped, however I'm going to work off of it. As it says here as well, it was based off of the Super Mario Snake platform levels. I really like those levels, I wanted to create one, but it's not going to work with my game idea, because the player needs to be able to stand still and place a flag, and a snake level doesn't exactly allow that, admittedly. I might still put one in, but it will be one of the more beginning levels so that it's not too hard for the player, so that the player can actually have fun with the concept. So, to summarise, overall, I've finished my level designs currently, I've implemented 2 level designs, and I have created some tile sets to use for now. Of course, these need polishing up, so they will be moving into the polishing section, I assume, shortly. So, I think the next thing I want to work on is continuing to work on my mechanics and maybe start to make a character sprite to actually use. Alongside that, might be worth to start thinking about those new mechanics that I thought about. However, these are going to be less of a focus because obviously this is a could-have, not a must-have, and I still have must-haves to add. Alongside this, I still need to work towards some should-haves. So, actively, currently, I feel like I am a bit behind and I understand that. So, I'm going to be working actively towards finishing my character, and at least making a good leeway through the mechanics, because I understand that the mechanics are going to take probably another sprint to finish.